Hi, I am Alisia. You discovering my channel is no accident. I'm a nutritional herbalist and master energy healer at the Energy Healing Channel. The Energy Healing Channel was created to clarify information on topics such as Reiki being a healing modality, and honestly, what is it really doing during and after a session? I'll cover other major crisis topics on Reiki for cancer, chakras and organ health, herbalism, nutritional Ayurveda for cancer, just to name a few. If these and similar healing topics are something you struggle with, you are in the right place. Today, we will go over what is Reiki good for. So today we're talking about what is Reiki good for. Reiki is good for so many things, really anything that you can think of. Are you a gardener? So if you have a small garden or if you've been thinking about gardening, Reiki will actually help develop those seeds and seedlings to grow healthy and thrive. So a simple tip on utilizing it in gardening. So say you are planting a new garden and you have your almanac and you know when you're going to plant and things like that. So you want to take your seedlings and you would just put them in your hand and you would draw the power symbol over them. You could also do the Seiheki symbol as well over them, and you would want to do that for about 15 to 20 minutes or so. You could also do it with seedlings. So if you've sprouted them and then you're going to put them in the ground, you can do them, hold the base of it where the roots and the little bit of dirt is. You can also Reiki the dirt that you're actually going to use to plant them. So you would just essentially do the symbols on your hands, do the symbols over the area or pot that you're going to be using, and then put your hands on it or hover. You can also beam Reiki. So if you're trained in Reiki, you can do that as well. And it just really helps you to develop a better relationship with your plants. You'll notice that they thrive and that they grow to be just lush and really, really beneficial. You'll have just this really superior relationship with plants overall. You can also do them with house plants. So if you notice that some of your plants are starting to die, starting to turn brown, not really flower. Some plants, you first buy them in the store and they have all these beautiful blooms on them, and then you get them home and then a year later or so, they're not really producing those same blooms. I would really recommend giving it some Reiki, and that will just help it to balance itself and to begin to produce those blooms again. Okay, the second thing that Reiki is good for is healing your home. So if you're not aware, negative energy likes to get trapped into corners and crevices of your home. And doing a regular energy cleansing of your home is vital just for your sanity, for feeling comfortable at home, for the relationships and things that are in your home. It's really beneficial to do spiritual energy cleansing. People already use herbs like sage and Palo Santo's wood to help cleanse just the energy of the room, but a lot of times the corners of the rooms get missed. So you would basically do, the symbols that you have. If you have the master symbols, those are really powerful. If you only have Reiki 1 or 2 attunements, then just doing this simple power symbol and also the Seiheki will help to eliminate that energy that collects in the corners. Recently, I did a spiritual cleanse, for the new year. I cleaned out, I physically washed the walls from the front, from the back of the home to the front of the home, and then, to usher out the things that I no longer want or that I want to get rid of. And then washing and drawing in is going to be the second part that I'll be doing. And I'll also be doing Reiki to help seal those rooms. And when you do that, it helps to keep the negative energy from really sticking, especially for me, doing energy work at home. It's important that I regularly clean my house spiritually and energetically. So just doing a whole house cleanse with Reiki is really, really beneficial, and it just helps to keep the positivity of the home intact. The third thing that Reiki can be good for is cooking, dining out, or even baking. So, traditionally a lot of people grow up with, praying over your food, praying over the hands of the person who prepared your food. So Reiki is an extension of that. So actually, drawing, like I said, drawing the power symbols. A lot of times you're going to be using the same power symbol because it's a really, really vital symbol. You can use the master symbol. To me, the master symbol is more for bigger crisis situations with a client. So you wouldn't necessarily need to, but if you feel the need, like if you're in a restaurant and you're like, I don't know, this restaurant's a little iffy, but you don't, it's because somebody else picked it or something, and you're just like, well, you can just simply do a power symbol or even the master symbol over your food. You can send Reiki with your eyes, so you can just think and visualize that symbol, look at your food as if you're praying over it, and send the Reiki to that. It doesn't have to be like, 20 minutes or anything. It can just be a quick, 1 to 2 minutes, however long or whatnot, and just sending Reiki to that. When you're cooking, to just infuse that good energy from you to the food that you're preparing. People tend to enjoy it more. I remember when I started learning Reiki and things like that, I was like doing Reiki on everything. And a few of the potlucks that I went to that year, people really, really loved the food that I brought. And, I am a good cook, but I think infusing some Reiki into it also helped as well, to just bring out just the gift that I was providing and sharing. So Reiki can also be good for relationships. So if you're going through a rough time with either coworkers, bosses, personal relationships, like with your husband, your boyfriend, your significant other, whatever names you guys, go by, it can actually help improve the communication. It can help with just things overall. I would say the biggest thing would be communication. A lot of things kind of break down around communication. Also financial, if you and your partner are struggling financially, you can actually send distance Reiki to that problem. It's good to do it on a regular basis, so almost like a daily thing. If you are into meditation, which I highly suggest doing, and I'll probably do a video on meditation that helps you to actually reach the quiet mind state. A lot of times, a lot of the techniques that are out there are a little skewed and not really, it's hard to actually get to that state. But enough about that, but doing it on a daily basis to help your financial situation. If one person is working and the other person is not, because the other person's having such a hard time getting a job, you can send Reiki to that situation to help with that. And help that person to land a job, because a lot of times there might be some negative energy that is built up through different karma that may have been, building and things like that. A lot of times, our negative karma can block us from certain things. So Reiki will help dislodge that and get things flowing into the relationship that are needed, like financial support, from both parties and things like that. Reiki can also be good for fertility, pregnancies, and childbirth. So at its core, Reiki is used for stress reduction and relaxation. And, going through times of trying to conceive can be really, really stressful. Also, when you have, gotten pregnant, stress on your body, stress just overall with dealing with it, especially if it's your first pregnancy, can be really, really overwhelming. So just like getting a massage, getting a regular Reiki treatment will help eliminate and, really subside a lot of those things. I really highly recommend, learning at least the first and second degrees of Reiki so that you can give yourself self-treatments. But it's also nice to actually receive treatments from others. I know that's one big thing about me. I am a natural healer, so I'm always, looking to help heal other people, but I'm having to learn to receive healing as well. And, if you have a local person that you trust and feel comfortable with, all it takes is a simple Google search. And I'm actually a traveling Reiki master, so I actually will go to clients' homes and do sessions with them there. And then I also have a home office for those that would like to come into my sacred healing space and receive the treatment. But it just helps overall, because as young girls and young women, we can tend to kind of hold on to negative energy in our uterus area. And the same thing with the fellas, different trauma and things get stuck in there in our first and second chakra, and that's right around our genital areas. And so having Reiki go in down into the cellular level to help release and dislodge, energy that's been stuck in there, because some, especially if there's been a traumatic experience, a lot of times we'll just shove it in there and like push it down and forget about it. And so what Reiki will do is just, it's gentle. It's not going to like dislodge something and like, all of these bad memories come or something like that. It's going to help kind of flesh out old stuff that's ready to be released, and allowing and opening up a space for new life to be brought in. So Reiki can actually also be used for sunburns, insect bites, and poison ivy exposure. Now, it's not far-fetched. Some people have a hard time believing that it will actually help, but it does. A good Reiki practitioner will help, in those instances to not feel the pain of those things, and will actually alleviate, the pressure and just the overall irritation that comes with those. And, being attuned yourself, having those attunements, you would be able to do it right there. You wouldn't have to rely on someone else to give you Reiki or to do Reiki. So for example, like if you're out camping, if you like to do camping a lot, if you're really into sports or going to the beach, I know there's, the sunblock that you can put, there's the spray, but it doesn't prevent it. It only somewhat delays it. But if you're really, really out there, like summertime, you're really out in the sun a lot and things like that, and you don't want, the permanent pain from that, then, having and giving yourself a Reiki treatment before you even go out will help kind of give you an energetic barrier as well. And I highly recommend, I'm going to be becoming a master teacher in a few months, and I'll be offering classes and things like that. So stay tuned for that. I look forward to really, teaching as many people as I can, because Reiki can be used for so many things. The next thing that it can help with are sports and exercise injuries. So, if you are a frequent runner, if you do a lot of walking, if you're a swimmer, if you play golf, if you play basketball, if you're a skateboarder, like any of these activities that you are out there playing it up, you're, accidents happen. And what better way to have a way to dull the pain, without having to pop a whole bunch of pills and things like that. That's one of the things that I, am against, is using a bunch of drugs to dull the pain or to help it go away, because it doesn't actually help it go away. With Reiki, it's a drugless approach, and it actually will help in the long run with that. It helps speed up healing and things like that. The next thing it's good for is computers and electronics. With my previous employer, I worked with electronics, with networking, installing internet, installing cable, TV, also working on telephone lines. And I kid you not, there were times when I had to use the Reiki to get the machine working. There were instances where it was late nights, or there was overtime that day, and I didn't have any more equipment, and I would go to a customer's house, and the one they have was a newer model. We all know a lot of that stuff is refurbished, but they had a newer model, and it just wasn't working right. They did report that they were having brownouts. And a lot of times when there's a power outage, or if your area experiences brownouts periodically, that can sometimes mess up your modem and cable equipment. And so there was one instance, it was like if you've ever been to Sacramento, you'll know like the Folsom, El Dorado area. So the job was way out there, and the person, I believe he worked for Intel, the company Intel, and those guys, they kind of discredit the people that work with this stuff every day. And he was kind of one of those guys. He wanted a new modem. He was like being really demanding, and I was explaining to him, hey, I don't have any more in my truck, but let me see what I can do. And a lot of times a lot of times it does have something to do with the wiring, because if the modem isn't getting a good connection at each point, if there's some weird connections between the signal and the actual equipment, then you know you'll have issues with the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. So I go to the main box and I was like fixing it, and I did some Reiki there. I did rewire, but I did turn Reiki on and have my hands beaming Reiki as I'm working on the wires. I traced everything out. I looked at everything. I reset it, and everything just came up like magic. And I'm a pretty good technician, so part of it was just my raw skills, but I do feel utilizing Reiki to help kind of clear out whatever was stagnant on the line really helped. And it can help also with phone batteries. I'm telling you guys, if you're in an emergency situation, the electrical flow of Reiki will actually kind of give your phone battery some juice so that you can make that emergency call. And see, these are things that you can try out once you've been attuned to Reiki 1 or 2. If you know somebody that does have those attunements, they can also send it distance by using the distance symbol. But I just think it's such a gift if you have it yourself, because you can solve a lot of things right there on your own. Okay, so the next one, I did just kind of talk about batteries, and the next one is really, it can be a little bit hard to believe for some people. Reiki can actually help a weak car battery. Now, I'm not gonna say if the battery's totally dead, that it's going to, make that thing come back strong. But again, in an emergency situation, especially if the practitioner is skilled enough and has practiced channeling Reiki, because the way Reiki works, the more you channel it, the more your body's able to let it flow through the hands of the practitioner. And I'm not discrediting, newer people, because there's some people that actually are not attuned to Reiki that are just natural energy healers. Like, they haven't had an attunement, but there's some type of good energy coming from them. But like I was saying, the longer the practitioner has been practicing, especially if they've reached master level and they've been teaching, they have their conduit is pretty wide enough to let a good amount of energy flow through. So when you kind of get to that point, you would, like I said, emergency situation, the car battery isn't turning over. You center yourself, ground yourself, and then you put your hands, you can either beam the Reiki. You'll want to do the symbols, of course, like Shokurei, Seiheki, and Hansa Zeishonin. If you're going to be doing the beaming, or you can just simply place your hands on the terminals. The practitioner will want to do it for at least 15 to 25 minutes to give it, ample time to kind of build up and get that energy from the practitioner, and then start the battery. And it will save you, the time it would take to call the tow truck or whatnot to come out. And it could also save you from having to buy an expensive battery on the spot, because when the tow truck guy comes out and they're like, oh, your battery, especially if it's late at night, what if you don't have, the $200 or whatever the battery is going to cost, right? And that saves you a trip, a call, because I know, because like I have AAA, the roadside, and you're only allowed so many of those a year. And so, if you can save one of those for an actual emergency where, you would need them to come out, hey, that's just being smart. Okay, and so the next thing that Reiki is good for is learning and studying. How many times have you, especially for those of us that are frequent learners, or we are in, taking a course or things like that, distraction is real, and being able to focus and actually intake and retain the information that we learn can be sometimes a bit of a hassle. I would say whenever I've had to use it for learning or studying, I actually do like a meditation beforehand, and I ask Reiki to help with me just to be able to absorb the information that I need to absorb, and it's helped more than in one way. And so just for those of you, especially if you are still in college, those of you that are like going for your doctorate degrees and your PhD, well, that's the same thing, PhD, and just, even for your bachelor's, or for just even for your associates, whatever degree that you are deciding on pursuing, having that focus is very, very vital. And, having Reiki being a part of that, you're sure to have, those high grades that you need for financial aid and just for bragging rights, right? Okay, and so the last one that I'm going to end with is creativity and problem solving. So Reiki can help, especially like if you work in an environment where you have to produce a certain idea, if you have to work with a group of people and collaborate with a lot of people. It will, like I said before, it helps with relationships. So it'll help that relationship, and it'll help that collaboration so that the ideas flow freely. There aren't any stuck ideas. You're able to get it out, what you want to say, how you want to express it. You'll actually probably more than likely come up with some better ideas than your counterparts, and you'll be able to seal that deal. So this is not an exhausted list of what Reiki is good for. As you can see, the list that I've shared, it's pretty short. You can use Reiki for anything. If you're dealing with any type of emotional distress, if you're dealing with a certain person and you really just don't want to deal with that person, you can actually send Reiki to that situation to help either get that person out of the way, as far as like you guys won't be interacting. I remember, just a short note, at my last job, there was this individual that it was just always a weird interaction whenever this person was around. And I don't know if it was because they were going through a lot of personal changes or things like that, or if they just had a weird vibe about them. And I was like, man, so I started using these techniques. I started using Reiki, sending Reiki to that situation. And then slowly but surely, I started noticing like I wasn't seeing this person as often. This person was actually on a different shift. Stuff had started to change to where like it was just making it a better situation for me at work, which was fantastic. And that ends the topic today. This has been Alisia with the Energy Healing Channel. I'd like to leave a note with you. Every one of you is a hyperdimensional being. The power that you have is all the real power you'll ever need. Being half-hearted equates to seeking approval from an external God, religion, or system. Your body is the real Bugatti, but maintenance is long, long overdue, my friend. Once you know thyself, you will know all things.